stories of violence, gunshot that were heard in Gokana and in some other areas, issues that came up in Kana local government area, issues in Eche local government areas, and some of the incidents which happened in Thai local government area. On Politics Today, yesterday on the program, we spoke about this election, and I'm bringing back the observers who looked at these exercises, and now they're back. They've been on the field and they're back to give us their views on how it all panned out. Nwagwu is the chairman, Partners for Electoral Reforms, and Esther Uzoma is a member of the Election Situation Room. Many thanks for coming on the program tonight. Yesterday, there were a lot of permutations were made, a lot of looking ahead to the exercise of today, but largely, what do you make of the exercise, considering the fact that election held in some areas, election did not hold in some areas? Let's start with INEC. Ezenwa, what do you see about this election of today?
I think that for INEC, I would simply just say, without missing words, that it's a logistic nightmare in terms of pushing out materials to the polling units. We know that in most places, for whatever reason, materials didn't get to polling units up to 11 o'clock. And even in many places where those materials were brought in, you could get complaints about result sheets. You could even hear about ballot papers not being complete. You could even hear about officials who are even going to a particular place, getting missing along the way. You know, that for me is unpardonable, given, you know, the high point to which they have taken the expectations of people with the levels they went to in Edo, the levels they went to, logistically speaking, in Ondo State. So coming back to Port Harcourt, I've not been able to come to terms.
It doesn't look like the same INEC which conducted.
I have not been able to come to terms with why we couldn't replicate something better than what we had in Ondo, and it's unexplainable. I've seen a level of frustration among the officials in terms of how things went. The vehicles, the drivers they got, the frustration of not responding. You know, I was in a particular area where materials were loaded, the officials were in the bus, the drivers refused to move. And in particular places where they even moved, they had to come back, that the place is not safe, and waited endlessly. And the security men themselves were wringing their hands.
You could give explanation to some of the issues which came up during this election, but some of them you cannot really give explanation for. Where we set up in Gokana, it's inexplainable what really happened, because in that polling center, materials came in a bus, and it happened that 3 polling points there did not have ballot papers and stamps. So I'm wondering, it looks so much that it looks to me more than error. It looks to me that there is some major opening in the space for INEC, isn't it?
The day before yesterday, we were at INEC and headquarters. I mean, the state headquarters. It was really dumbfounding for me to see the lackadaisical attitude. In fact, I think one of the national commissioners was visibly angry with the liturgy with which officials were responding to this issue. Where is this one? The vehicles are not there. The people are seated, as if it's not something. You know, I don't want to think that it is an error. I don't want to think so. But it's disappointing for those of us who have started advocating that INEC has completely overcome logistics issues.
Let me quickly ask Esther. Esther, where you said everything good about INEC, would you say the same today?
Well, I will not judge INEC by their failures. I will choose to judge INEC by its strength. Granted that Rivers was a logistics nightmare. There were so many delays in the chain of execution that's affecting the final picture. But I will not judge INEC by the failure of Rivers. I will judge INEC by its strengths, by its logistics, sharp delivery in Edo, or timely delivery in Ondo. In Rivers is unique. The power tussle in Rivers is real. The ability to unleash violence on the citizens is also real. These officials have it at the back of their mind that this is it. This is all there is to it. So they are approaching the process also with this caution. I beg, make I no go there, go die. They are approaching it. So that's what informed that seeming lethargy.
The explanation you're giving for INEC, for example, because we've invited INEC to come and explain to Nigerians some of the failures we have seen today. People will say you're as good as your last outing. And for INEC, we graded them good based on the Ondo outing. That was their last outing before this time around. For today, if you are saying that, we should look at them based on their strength. Their strength did not come to the ball today.
No, but how do you move? What will you do when the people, for instance, we saw, like my colleague.
What about places where they took materials to, and materials were obviously not present in part of that place?
That's what I'm saying, but we saw drivers who refused to move. How do you drive that? We saw citizens who refused, people who were supposed, to move with materials, and they refused to move.
Those places where you had materials, drivers move, what happened?
Exactly. So that's that human angle that you can't, granted, it's a nightmare. Granted that it's not normal, you see. But, what about that human factor? I'm talking about the ones we saw.
Because Esther, before this election, INEC has been in the middle of the back and forth between the major political parties. Some have said that INEC will not bring its best to birth. It looks like a prophecy, and it's coming to pass.
No, I don't think I want to remove the challenges from the narratives, that the gladiators are putting out, and situate our conversation in terms of watchers of the process. INEC will get a huge knock for its failings in terms of logistics. But the overbearing nature of the politicians in Rivers State, their determination to frustrate the process is inexcusable. If materials come late to a place and you are patient,
elections will still hold
within the time frame.
That's right.
That you have, you can't. The outcome, the what do you call it? The
process.
It's not the people are not that many that within the time process that you will not be able to cover up. Yeah. You will be able to cover up, but there's a determined effort by gladiators to continue that, to make their own prophecies come to pass.
Exactly.
And that's the best way to do it. They want their prophecies to come to pass by putting in all the funny obstacles that we've seen. In a particular place in Bori,
yes,
ballot boxes disappeared, and the electoral official said he's not continuing except those boxes were returned. And they were, funny enough, they were returned.
I've not seen as much of ballot snatching
I'm
since
not talking
2015.
about, I'm not talking
today,
about snatching. Empty ballot. I'm not talking about counting.
Okay, I'm talking about ballots. Full ballot boxes that were being snatched and taken away. It's been since 2015 that I've had this level of snatching that took place today.
So then let's interrogate the place of the citizen. How did it happen? Was it ghosts? How did it happen? Didn't I say that this is a balkanized, this is a territory and protectorate? There are people in charge. And then when they decide that, listen, boys, don't do this. Stop these people on the way. Take this. They start executing it. It wasn't done by strangers. It was executed. whatever it was executed with the full connivance of the people of Rivers State. It wasn't done by strangers. We were in LMA. We saw a huge number of young Nigerians. They were just massing up. You will see them 50s, in hundreds. They were just massing up. You will know that something is about to happen. And then that addresses the issue. This industry of conflict that is systematically groomed and brewed. Let me tell you, if we don't, the people of River State must realize that they can, until they decide to stop being pawns in the hands of these political entrepreneurs, they don't even. You saw the level of we saw in that place. These youths were just massing. I'm talking about 10. You see 100, 50 chanting. And the tension was, you could almost touch it.
Is it a move to stop any form of rigging, or what kind of move did you see?
Now, what you need to interrogate is that first you need to interrogate what is the voting strength.
Yes,
of that community.
Exactly.
Put it side by side the number of the massing that she's talking about. You find out that you have people who have no business
with elections.
They just don't have any business with the elections. So the point is that I've continued to say that we need the advocacy that we need to put on the table. Will have to be an advocacy that addresses the shenanigan that the politicians.
I'm telling you.
Let's take up this issue, because early in the morning, one of the things that we've seen that has worked for INEC, because we're still looking at the process, the conduct, before we move into other issues, as security and other reactions that we're getting. The conduct. In a place like Gokana, we saw materials arriving at 9:40 a.m. That is pretty not good. In a situation where INEC had created what they called racks that could easily be accessible, and you still have 1 hour, almost 2 hour delay in dispersing or deploying materials.
The politicians and their agents held down INEC in the racks.
Really?
Exactly.
Now, the whole conversation about sorting out the materials and so where took almost 3 hours within the racks.